actually grew up in a really interesting household. My father was the upholsterer to the Queen at Windsor Castle, and my mother was the head of a computer company in England. And so I grew up with this incredible conflict of interests in a way. My father was very creative and very involved and engaged in artisan craftsmanship, whereas my mother was involved with state-of-the-art technology. And you know, that's really influenced my career tremendously, because what I do in shoes is a combination of both of those interests. I'm using wonderful Italian craftsmanship to create my shoes, but at the same time I'm using state-of-the-art technology that's available to develop the heels, the lasts, the leathers, the fit of the shoes. So it's an incredible combination of those two interests. So the creative process for me working with Ferragamo is, it all starts with Salvatore himself. I spend a lot of time here in Palazzo Feroni, because what you don't see here is that there's this incredible archive connected to the museum with 15,000 pairs of shoes. So it's really the most inspirational process to have the opportunity to go through those boxes and study the details of those shoes that he left behind. And so many of those details become the inspiration for the beginnings of the collection. You go into the museum and you look at some of the vintage shoes, you can't really imagine that they were created in the 1920s and 30s. They look like they were created in the 60s and 70s. They were so modern, so ahead of their time. I mean, people forget that with Salvatore, that before him, shoes were merely for function. It's something you put on your feet to walk out of the door so you weren't barefoot. I mean, he made shoes into objects of desire. He made shoes fashionable. The pre-spring 2018 collection was, again, heavily inspired by things I found in the archive. So in going through many of the boxes, there was this overarching takeaway for me that Salvatore was really inspired by flowers, whether it be with appliques on heels or embroideries or raffia wovens or embroideries. It was kind of amazing how much work he did with a flower motif. You know, I feel like, I mean, the world is somehow so different now than when Salvatore was alive. It's much smaller. You know, it's exactly the same size, but it's made smaller by the fact that we can travel so quickly from different countries. And the influence that I have, having been born in England, living in the United States, working in Italy, it just makes everything that I do feel somehow more international. And that is the epitome of Ferragamo today. We're an Italian company, but we're international, and we dress and we put shoes and we put bags on the arms of women all over the world. But my major aim is to introduce the Salvatore Ferragamo name to a younger generation of consumers. You know, we already have such a wonderful established customer, and it's not that we want to stop designing for her whatsoever. It's just about introducing Ferragamo to her daughter and her granddaughter.